Hey everyone, welcome to the video. As you guys can see in the title, this is basically going to be a guide, essentially a guide for people that are just coming back to World of Warcraft. You're wanting to get into PvP, you don't know exactly what you need to do in order to, prepare your character. I've created a list. It is a lengthy list. There is a lot of stuff you have to do. It takes a little while, I'm not gonna lie, but if you're up for the task, this is going to be essentially all that you're going to need to get done. So at the end, I have a most important list, and basically if you do this every week, you should be, in a decent spot. Once you get level 120, you need to unlock your neck, your Heart of Azeroth, okay? There's a few things you have to do on your neck, but we'll talk about that later. But you're gonna unlock your neck by doing your intro to Nazjatar questline. I wouldn't worry too much about like leveling it up, because after doing all these other things, thankfully the catch-up mechanic on the neck will allow you to get to a reasonable level relatively quickly. So you don't have to really prioritize that. It's just going to kind of passively happen as you do other things. Okay, so once you've got your neck unlocked, the next thing you need to quickly unlock is your cloak. So your legendary cloak, and you're going to do that with the Black Empire campaign, and you can only do this campaign once you have unlocked your neck. Now, with your cloak, it is actually really important in patch 8.3, because essentially what you need to do is level up your cloak, and the way you're going to do that is with N'Zoth assaults. You're going to do N'Zoth assaults. You're going to do daily quests in Uldum and Vale of Eternal Blossoms, and then you're going to be jumping into horrific visions. And every time you do a horrific vision, if you can get far enough, you'll earn an upgrade for your cloak. It starts out at level 1, and you'll slowly be working your way to level 15, which is essentially max power. Now, this is quite a grind. I don't want you to get discouraged, but it will take a little while. One thing I really suggest you do, because essentially when the cloak first came out, it was time gated with like your tech tree from Mother, and as you unlock it, you'll learn about that quite quickly. But once you can get all the necessary tech, the visions become much easier, allowing you to go deeper and getting more corrupted mementos and level up your cloak a little bit quicker. So one thing I really suggest you do is the LFR version of Ny'alotha, the second wing, and you'll have access to the 3 mini bosses that drop 200 corrupted mementos each. So that'll help you unlock the tech, and then make sure to buy the actual keys to get into the horrific vision. You're doing your N'Zoth assaults, as well as your daily quest in Uldum. So you've unlocked your neck, you've unlocked your cloak. Now, another very important thing you need to be doing is working on your essences. So your neck, as you level it up, eventually when it hits, I think 75, you can use 4 essences, and these essences are incredibly powerful. So you need to figure out which ones are your best. You can go to your favorite streamer, or just look at the people at the top of the armory, see what essences they're playing. It's pretty straightforward. But once you figure that out, you need to start farming for your essences. So not only are you going to be leveling up your neck after you unlock it, leveling up your cloak, you also need to get essences. Now, you're going to be doing dailies. You're going to have to grind reputation. You might even have to jump into old raids, cap in PvP, different things. They're quite easy. Once you figure out which essences you need, I wouldn't say they're easy to get, but it's easy to know what to do. So you'll have like a pretty good idea of what you need to do in order to get those essences. So essences, unlocking your cloak, unlocking your neck, and now for farming gear. So not only do you need these things, but you also need to, get your item level up. The main things to consider on your gear are, your Azerite. You want to get the right Azerite traits. These empower your spells, so you have to get, your helmet, your shoulders, your chest. And hopefully you can get the proper Azerite traits on those. You also want to be looking for corruption, so everything in the game has a chance to corrupt, and if it's a good corruption, that's going to help you on your gear. Obviously, the item level of the gear matters, as well as the secondary stats are really important to consider. So for farming gear, what I suggest you do is do mythic dungeons. You can do the weekly raid. So when you're first starting out, you can do looking for raid. You can do normal. You can do heroic eventually. I mean, if you really get into it, you can eventually do mythic. But LFR, normal, and the first couple bosses of heroic are going to be pretty easy to get into. You can do your heroic warfront. I think once a week you can do the heroic warfront and get a piece of 460 gear. Your weekly visions that you do, drop a piece of gear. So as you're leveling up your cloak in the horrific visions, you will be able to get a piece of gear from that. Capping in PvP. So if you look at your conquest bar, every time you fill up the conquest bar, you'll have access to get a new piece of gear. Now, when you start off, the item level of that gear isn't really high, but if you're just starting off, it's still a nice piece of gear. So make sure you're filling up your conquest bar as much as you can, and that's a great option, especially if you like PvP, because you can do things like arena, the PvP island expeditions, rated BGs, skirmishes, BGs, and then of course the call to arms quests, which are all really, really nice for capping that conquest bar. In addition to that, make sure you guys are doing your daily emissaries. So if you open up your map, at the bottom there'll be like a little bonus quest. So if you have the Tortallon emissary, going and doing 3 Tortallon quests will give you an extra box, and it's an extra chance of loot. So that's definitely important. If you have gold, you can start working towards your professions. Getting the lower item level stuff isn't really that bad. So if you're a mage, you can get into tailoring, and with tailoring, you can unlock some really good pants and gloves that can help you kind of catch up on your gear. So definitely something to consider. Make sure you're getting your bonus rolls as well. You can buy those in the capital city. A quick Google search can show you, but for Alliance it's Tezzeret, and you can buy 2 of those a week. So if there's a particular piece of gear you want from the raid, or if you really want to go crazy PvP or a world boss, then you can bonus roll that to help you get some extra loot. And then of course there's the world boss in Vale of Eternal Blossoms in Uldum that will be available once a week. So definitely important, and like I said, these are the things you want to consider on the gear. And I mean, for the most part, you're just going to be copying what you see top players do. So definitely look into what corruptions you think are good for you, what Azerite's good for you, and what secondary stats are important. Now, Mythic Plus, there's basically 2 major loot hauls on Tuesday, and that is if the prior week you capped in PvP or you did a Mythic Plus, then on the next Tuesday you'll get 2 boxes that you can open. Now these boxes truly are dark chests of wonder. Sometimes they'll give you something awesome. More often than not, it gives you garbage. But when you're first starting out, these are a major source of upgrades for you. So definitely make sure that you're doing a Mythic Plus every single week, as well you're capping in PvP. Now, for Mythic Plus, there's a system in the game that you might not know about, but basically it's a rating for how good you are at Mythic Plus. It's called Raider.io, and you probably won't get invited to any big key groups until you get your Raider.io score up. So I really suggest you get into some low Mythic Pluses, as it's a pretty good way to gear up, especially early on. So you can get into like some some +1s, +2s, +3s, +4s, +5, and then obviously higher and higher and higher. But if you want to get your Raider.io up, you can look at what keys you've done, what your highest of everything is, and you can slowly try to get those up. So if you have a key that you haven't timed at all, try to get into that group, and or try to get into that key or that dungeon. And even if it's just a +2, a +3, it'll help you build your Raider.io score. This might seem incredibly tedious if you're a PvPer, and it really is. But this is a great way to gear. So if you are interested in gearing as quickly as possible, doing Mythic Plus, getting your IO score up, it's important. Okay. And remember, the higher Mythic Plus key you do in a week, so let's say you're up to a 15, let's say you do a +10, that's going to give you a certain amount of loot, and then if you can do a +15, that'll actually give you mythic item level loot, so it'll give you 475 in your weekly box. Like I said, make sure to cap in PvP, so you can do that with the call to arms, BGs, skirmishes, arena, rated battlegrounds, PvP island expeditions, and make sure if you want to have access to that weekly box, you are turning in the quest. Okay. Another thing you can kind of work towards if you want is unlock flying. It's optional. I would say it helps quite a bit, but it is kind of a time sink. So definitely don't feel like you need to, but it is something that will definitely help. So what I would say for this is you have to get revered with all the starting Battle for Azeroth factions. Yeah, it's going to take a while. You need to do your daily quests in Nazjatar and Mechagon, because I think you have to actually get revered with them as well. So you need to be revered with Nazjatar and Mechagon. Then you need to explore basically all of BFA with a ground mount, or have a friend fly you around. So that's how you're going to be unlocking flying. You can track the quest if you want, but this is something, if you're starting to get into it, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I would focus on some of these other things. Now, I was thinking about not adding this, because for the most part, I don't really think paying money for gold in game is good at all. But I decided I was just going to add it just in case. But if you're well off and you want to just buy WoW tokens, you can basically, people are selling carries for Mythic Plus. You can buy gear on the auction house. I mean, I think it's unfortunate, but some of your best loot could potentially come from just buying it on the auction house. So if that is something you're interested in and you want to basically excel how fast you're gearing, if you already have gold, that's great. But I'm assuming, if you're just coming back, you're probably not going to have that much gold, or you're just starting out. So the only way you're going to have access to that is to either get really, really good at farming, which, I mean, I don't know how to do that. The only way I have gold in this game is just random BOE drops. So I'm definitely not the guy for that. But if you have the gold, or you have the money to buy WoW tokens, you can get carried in heroic and mythic raids. You can get carried in visions, like a 5 mask, 5 chest to get bonus loot. This is an option, but it's not required. It'll just accelerate everything. Now, this is the list. This is the list I came up with my stream that is basically the most bang for your buck. If you are just coming back, you should 100% complete these things every single week, okay? This is the most important thing. You need to do your weekly Mythic Plus for a box at the end of the week. You need to do your weekly PvP cap for a box at the end of the week. You need to do your weekly assaults. This is the best way to get the coalescing visions, I think they're called. So you can actually buy the keys to enter horrific visions. And if you don't want to do all the daily quests, at least do the assaults, because they give quite a big reward and allow you to start leveling up your cloak. Pardon me. Heroic Warfront. This is something new in 8.3. So you can do a Heroic Warfront. You can get a piece of 460 loot. And then, of course, your weekly raid. At least do LFR. Do normal. If you can do a few bosses in Heroic, you should be able to get into a group for the first 3-4 bosses, even if you aren't necessarily the highest item level. Weekly Island Expedition cap. Now this is a great way to work towards some of your essences, but it's also a good way to cap in PvP if you do the PvP ones. And if not, you just do the regular ones. It's still a great source of artifact power, to level up your neck. So do that. Make sure you're buying your bonus rolls every week. You're doing your emissaries. So, I mean, you don't have to do these, but the daily emissaries are a great way to get gear relatively quickly, and you can bang out, an emissary in 10-15 minutes if you want to, each and every day, 15-20 minutes. And then, of course, the world boss, and then the Tortalan weekly. So, in the main city, in the capital city, there's a Tortalan vendor. Not a vendor. There's a Tortalan NPC, and you can go there and you can get a weekly quest, and that weekly quest can be win 10 skirmishes, win 4 battlegrounds, do 4 heroic dungeon or mythic dungeons, etc., etc. And that normally has a really nice piece of loot as well. So do these things, and you'll slowly be creeping up and catching up to a point to where you can start competing in PvP. These are some of my extra tips as well. Like, really consider joining a helpful guild or community. There's a lot of guilds out there. You can find them in Guild Finder. I know a lot of people meme on that kind of stuff, but there are these communities, and people are willing to help you if you're willing to put in the time and effort as well. So that could definitely help you. And my big tip is really try not to be overwhelmed. I know this seems absolutely absurd, and I agree. It really is. It's really, really difficult to get back into WoW right now. But like I said, if you are up for the task, a lot of us have a lot of free time on our hands right now. And I will say this, they're adding a 100% reputation increase in the game. So that will help out with a lot of this stuff, including, unlocking flying and farming essences. And yeah, so if you want to come back, it is a decent time. You get extra speed leveling, you get extra reputation. Good luck to you. If you have any questions, feel free to stop by my stream or just leave a comment on the YouTube video. But yeah, like I said, a lot of people have asked me. This is the list I came up with. Hopefully it helps you. I know this is a 15-minute long video. I'll leave this list if you want to check out the checklist. This little Google document in the info section of the video. So yeah, go check it out. And happy hunting, guys. Good luck. Truly, good luck.